Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Hannah. I love stories. I make videos here on this channel all about the books I read and sometimes TV shows and movies too. So if you're new here, hi, it's nice to meet you. If you're not new here and you've seen my recent videos, they've all been sitting down and just giving you lists of books to read, and that's fun, but I want to do something a little bit different. So today, this video, I'm just going to film for the next few days. I'm going to be reading some. I'm going to be telling you about what I'm reading. And yeah, now if you've decided that sounds interesting to you, here's some more detail. I'm currently in the middle of two books. Book number 1 is Crooked Kingdom by Leigh Bardugo. This is the sequel to Six of Crows. I read Six of Crows last year, really enjoyed it. So I've been sitting on this for a year, not for any particular reason or negative reason, not because I have anything against this, simply because other things have come up and I've got swept away by other books. It's time. I was taking a look at my physical TBR the other day and I figured it's time that I get this checked off of my list. And I'm 39 pages into it so far. The Six of Crows is about a group of teenagers in this magical world. Some of these kids in this group have magical powers, some of them don't, but altogether this group needs to perform a heist, and they need to kidnap a person from another country and bring it to their own country for this businessman for his own nefarious purposes, right? They're able to do that, but when they come back, this businessman swindles them. It goes a little bit awry, and the businessman actually ends up kidnapping a member of their crew. So that's where Six of Crows ends off, and that's exactly where this picks up. Even though it's been a year since I read Six of Crows, I had no trouble getting back into this. There was no part of the beginning of this that I was confused about. I remember all the characters, the cast of characters from Six of Crows. Getting it back into this was super easy, and I feel like that's a good thing. And at this point in time, that's all I really have to say. But as I read more throughout this week, I will share more thoughts with you. That's book number 1. Book number 2 that I'm working on is an audiobook. That's why I'm pulling out my phone. And that audiobook is, if you can see that, Every Heart a Doorway by Shannon McGuire. This is the first book in the Wayward Children series, which is a series of fantasy books that addresses the question, what happens to kids in fantasy books that go through a portal to a magical world and then come back to the real world? What happens to them when they're back in the real world and have to adjust to not being in a magical world anymore? And so we're following a teenage girl named Nancy, who recently has come back from the underworld and doesn't like being back in the real world. Her parents are concerned about her. She's acting kind of weird. And so they send her to this boarding school that they think is going to fix her. But what her parents don't know, is that this boarding school is run by a woman who has had a very similar experience, who as a child was whisked away through a portal to this nonsense Wonderland-like world. When she came back, she struggled. And so as an adult, this woman decided, I'm going to start a school to help other kids who are going through these magical portals to these magical worlds and help them adjust. Yeah, we're at this school. After a couple of days at this school, things start to get mysterious and dark things start happening. That's all I'll say because I don't want to spoil too much of the book for you. I'm liking it. I'm 72% of the way through the book, and unless the last 28% of the book is just completely crazy and goes off the rails, I do believe I'm going to continue this series because the concept of this I just really like. I also like that it is kind of dark and mysterious, but it's not just the dark, mysterious things happening that are dark and mysterious. It's also a lot of these worlds that these kids are going to are dark and mysterious. Like I said, Nancy went to the underworld and was in this really dark worlds. It's just dark and spooky, but also magical at the same time. And I kind of like that. One more thing I want to mention about this book before we move on. This book has great LGBTQ queer representation. So if you're looking for more books that have trans representation, ace representation, just different... Hi, sweetie. Anyway, what I was saying is, yeah, you've got trans representation, ace representation, and that adds a layer to this whole whimsical, magical, kids going to other worlds concept that just, I don't know, it just adds a layer to this that makes it more real and meaningful and purposeful that I just really enjoy. And I think it's great. Comment down below if you're a pet parent and your pets are just so cute sometimes that you feel like you can't move, because that's what I'm feeling right now. For right now, I'm gonna go get some reading in and I'll catch up with you later. It's the next day and I have a few updates for you. Update number 1, I finished Every Heart a Doorway, and I am definitely going to be continuing the Wayward Children series from here on out. I liked that it was dark and whimsical. I liked that it had this magic to it, but there was also some darkness to the book, and not just because our main character visited the underworld. It's more than that. It's that these kids, this experience that they've had going to these other worlds and then coming back is kind of traumatic to them, you know, and the way they're treated when they get back is a little bit traumatic. This book really balances that like real darkness with, you know, just this magical concept, and I liked how it was pulled off. I do have 2 small complaints. Number 1 is, as much as I liked that it was kind of dark and magical at the same time, we got to know too many dark worlds, if that makes sense. The kids who went to these dark, scary worlds, you know, we get to know a lot of them, but we don't get to know very many kids who went to happy worlds. And I would like to know what those happy worlds are like, because I'm curious. It was missing a little bit more detail about the lighter worlds too. I wish there had been a little bit more of that, but since it is a whole series, I'm thinking that there's time for that in the rest of the series. Complaint number 2 is that, as I alluded to when we last spoke about this, there's some dark and spooky things that start to happen at this school. You know, it happens and then it happens again, and by the 3rd time this thing happens, our main character and a few of her friends have just decided that they should do something, that they should fight to do something so they can protect their school or whatever. But this is at the 80% mark where they're like, yeah, we need to do this. And then things are resolved and figured out by the 90% mark. So like it happens very quickly where they're like, yeah, we're gonna do this. And then they figure it out, they stumble upon the answer, and it's like, oh, okay. It just seemed a little bit quick to me. And I feel like, again, this is a very short book, and so I feel like it just, maybe if it were a little bit longer, there was a little bit more happening, it would have made a little bit more sense, but it was just like, felt so fast to me. But again, not so fast that I didn't really enjoy the book still. Now that we're done talking about Every Heart a Doorway, and now that I'm done reading that, that brings us to my second update, which is that I have a new audiobook that I started listening to this morning, and that is A Theory of Dreaming, which is the sequel to A Study in Drowning. I read A Study in Drowning a couple months ago. I really liked it. Probably my favorite book that I've read so far this year, so I'm really excited to be diving into the sequel. And I feel like, having just finished Every Heart a Doorway and now going back into the world of A Study in Drowning, I'm seeing some similarities between the 2 books. And that is that they both have this like magical but like darkly magical feel and world, this kind of dark fairy tale feel to them. Our heroine of both of these books are dealing with the aftermath of like a kind of traumatizing event, you know, and because of that they are imagining themselves, they are escaping to these imaginary worlds. In Every Heart a Doorway, Nancy is just imagining herself going back home to the underworld over and over again now that she's stuck against her will in the real world. And in A Study in Drowning, our main character Effie has, you know, had something happen to her, and she escapes to the world of her favorite book and the characters in her favorite book. And so I feel like they're just very similar. Yeah, I like them both. I'm excited to be back in the worlds of A Study in Drowning, and I will keep you updated on that as I continue to read that throughout the rest of this vlog. And finally, a quick update on Crooked Kingdom. I read about 25 more pages in this last night and finally got to Inej's point of view. If you've read Six of Crows specifically, great, keep listening. If not, plug your ears. I was really excited to get Inej's point of view since she's been kidnapped, and I wanted to know that, like, what's happening to her and see things from her perspective. So that was really good, and I feel like it came at the perfect time. I feel like the pacing of this book and Six of Crows is just perfect, because even though we're bouncing back and forth between so many different points of view, I feel like there's no point of view that I dislike. That's my update for Crooked Kingdom, and I will keep you updated as I continue reading this. Right now I gotta get back to some real life grown-up stuff. We'll read a little bit more later, and I will let you know what I think. I thought I'd update you because I feel like this vlog, so far the clips that I have for this vlog are all book related, and I feel like it's fun to throw in some non-book related things. Here's one non-book related thing, and that is that I saw Wicked for Good a couple days ago with my two best friends, which was just a great experience. And as if For Good wasn't gonna already make me sob, seeing it with my two best friends obviously just made me cry even more. But it was a really cool experience, and I really liked the movie. I feel like the second movie I like better than the first movie, just because it expands on what's in the stage musical a lot more than the first movie expanded on the first act. And I wish the first movie would have expanded more, but I would have liked it more if it were more intentional and like built upon the story a little bit more. I feel like if you're going to adapt something into a different medium, add to it. That's like part of the exciting thing about adapting a story from one medium to another, is that you can do things in a new medium that you couldn't in the old one. And so there just wasn't as much of that as I would have liked in Wicked, the first part. So, but I feel like Wicked for Good did have a lot of that. So I liked it a lot. I cried a lot. And those are my thoughts on Wicked. And now I'm going to give you some updates, some reading updates, because that's probably the biggest reason you're here. It's been a few days since we last spoke, so I've read a lot in Crooked Kingdom. I've read about 200 pages since the last time we talked, and I'm on chapter 16 now. A lot has happened. Minor spoiler, Inej is back in the crew. They were able to save her, and now we're on to a new-ish kind of mission. Like, there's a threat to the Grisha in Ketterdam, and so they are trying to save all of the Grisha. The mission has evolved, and I like that. I have read a lot over the past few days over the weekend, but there was a moment on Friday or Saturday when I was reading, and it was a chapter from Jesper's point of view. And whether you're familiar or not with this book, Jesper is a sharpshooter. He's really into guns, he loves his guns, and he uses that skill to like protect the crew when they're on these missions, these heists. And so he's kind of the lookout, the defense. In this chapter, he has recently lost his guns in a bet that didn't go his way. As he and Wylan are going on this little side quest to get some information from somebody at a university, he's thinking about this, and he's like, oh man, I miss my guns. I wish I had my guns with me. And then he's having this internal thought where he's like, wait, but I don't really need my guns. Nobody else on the university campus is carrying guns with them. But wouldn't it be more interesting if they did? I don't know. That just kind of took me out of it. Like this, sometimes I can get weirded out. I can get fixated on very small details. And this was a detail that I got fixated and weirded out by because I happen to live in a country where people like to take guns to schools and hurt children and their teachers on a fairly regular basis. And the fact that this book is written and the target audience is teenagers, just putting that all together, it felt a little bit weird to me. And so it kind of weirded me out. It pulled me out of the story. Instead of being able to just be a part of this fun heist in a magical, fantastical world, I was very rudely pulled back into my own world, and not just my world and my life, but the worst parts of my world. So that wasn't pleasant, but I don't think it was intended either. Like, I feel like most people probably read right past that, you know? It's just sometimes I get fixated on those small details. Yeah, so that wasn't supposed to happen, but it did. And in order to kind of get myself back into the book, I got the audiobook to kind of help me get back into it. When I find that I am hesitant about reading or resisting reading for whatever reason, it could be that I'm stressed out and I'm feeling pulled in a million different directions, and I'm stressed because there's just not enough time to do everything, I pop in an audiobook and I do some chores, or maybe it's just that I am exhausted, I am worn out by everything going on in my life and in the world, and I just don't want to read with my eyeballs. My eyeballs are tired, and so I just lay down, close my eyes, and listen to an audiobook. So whatever the holdup is with like reading physically, I feel like audiobooks always help me get back into the story, and that's what happened here. After that moment, I started listening to the audiobook. Hearing it in Jesper's voice helped a little bit. Just be like, oh yeah, that's right. This is a character who loves guns, not because he loves to hurt people, not because he's trying to kill people, but just because he's good at it. He has good aim. And also this is a character who dropped out of university because he was struggling, because he felt restless in school and it just wasn't the right environment for him. Imagining that and like remembering that this is a character by listening to this voice actor, it got me back into the book. And so I'm really liking the audiobook. I really like how it's done and that there are different voice actors for each character. Speaking of the audiobook, I am gonna pop that in my ears and I'm gonna go take my dog for a walk because he's getting restless. It's his walk time. So we're gonna go for a walk, and then I have some chores that I need to get taken care of this afternoon. I will catch up with you again after those activities and give you an update. It's been a few days. I'm here for some final updates. Here's what I have to say about Crooked Kingdom to start off with. First of all, I really enjoyed this one just as much as I enjoyed Six of Crows, but for different reasons. I feel like Six of Crows, I liked the heist. I liked the mission that they were on in Six of Crows more than what happens in this one. I will say there is a moment in this in this book where, the mission they're on, there's a moment that gets kind of theatrical, kind of dramatic, and I like how that played out and how it just completely took the opposing side by surprise. That was just fun. I liked seeing that. Even with that moment, I have to say that I liked the mission, the heist in the first book better, but I loved this book because we get to know our characters more deeply. We see those like character arcs kind of come to a close and they wrap up in a really nice way. We see our characters and their relationships that they're building within the group, those are strengthened. Yeah, I really liked that part of this book. I liked seeing that and getting to know the characters more deeply and seeing their relationships flourish. And after seeing all of that, I am kind of sad that this story is over, that we won't be seeing another story with this same group of characters together again. And minor spoilers for this book, I'm sad that they all go their separate ways. I feel like that's a natural ending to how this story ends, but I'm sad at the same time. I didn't want to see that end. I wanted them to stay together. I wanted to think of them continuing to work together, and yet it's just natural for what these characters want and where they're going that they separate. And so the ending makes sense, but it also made me sad at the same time. Crooked Kingdom, really great. Really recommend it, especially if you've read Six of Crows. I don't know how you could possibly read Six of Crows and not want to read this, but that's just my opinion. That's my experience, and I highly recommend both of them. It's a great duology. Another update I have for you regarding another duology is that I finished listening to A Theory of Dreaming this afternoon, and my initial thoughts are there's a lot more happening in this book than what happened in A Study in Drowning. I still have a lot to process there. Yeah, there's a lot happening in this book, and maybe more than needed to happen in just one book, if that makes sense. I still really enjoyed it. Some things I really liked are that we get to see Preston's point of view in this book and get to know him better as a character and get to know his struggles and how he deals with those struggles in his life. Something I liked is that in this book, Effie is still struggling, you know? She has had some experiences that have deeply wounded her, and although she discovers some things in A Study in Drowning that kind of help to drowning, especially with the way A Study in Drowning ends, that help Effie to heal some of the things, the traumatic things that she's experienced in her life, but it's not an immediate healing, you know, and I like that we still see her and she's still struggling with things. And it's initially at the beginning of the book, she's excited because of everything that came out of A Study in Drowning, and she's feeling pretty happy with like the discoveries that she and Preston made in that book, and that helps. But you know, there's still things that she needs to address and face head on if she wants to truly heal from the trauma she's experienced in her life. And I like that it shows this nonlinear path to healing. That's true, that's real, you know. And so I liked that. I like that it continues to talk about how important stories are to us as humans. We need stories, and how stories shape the way we see the world. It continues to talk about that in a slightly different way, and also takes that conversation to a larger scale in this book. And so I liked that. So there's a lot that I liked about A Theory of Dreaming, but I also feel like maybe there were points where I felt like it bit off a little bit more than it could chew for just one story, but I still really liked it. So those are my thoughts. I still have a lot to process with this book. Like I said, there's a lot that happens in the story that I'm still thinking through, because I just barely finished it this afternoon. But those are my initial thoughts, and that brings our vlog to a close. Thank you so much for watching this vlog. If you've watched all the way through, I really appreciate it. This vlog has just been fun for me to stretch myself creatively a little bit, try something a little bit different, and I hope to make some more vlogs, and I hope to continue to practice using that vlogging creative muscle of mine in the future. So hopefully you'll be seeing more vlogs more frequently here on this channel, and if you're interested in that, please consider subscribing. With all of that said, thank you so much for watching. Thank you for listening to me ramble about books. I'll see you in my next video. Bye!